Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the Mission Matters Startup Garage Podcast, your source for all things startups. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at AskAdamTorres. Keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, missionmatters.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, so today I have Dr. Robert Kusin on the line, and he's founder and CEO over at BioSculpture Technology. Robert, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on, Adam.
So I'm excited to get into today's topic. So we're going to talk a little bit more about BioSculpture's disruptive technology. But before we do that, tell us a little bit more about BioSculpture Technology, please.
Sure. The company is a medical device manufacturer, and our corporate mission is literally to unleash the artist and the surgeon for cosmetic procedures and develop innovative science-based solutions for treatment applications. We aspire to be a leading manufacturer and developer of medical devices and procedures for handling adipose tissue, fat. We target the liposuction and the body sculpting market, the bariatric treatment market, and the fat autograft and adipocyte-derived stem cell processing markets. So those are the three areas that we concentrate on, basically everything fat.
Mm-hmm. So I think that's a great transition. I understand that you're working on some new disruptive treatments now as we speak. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure, and that's exceedingly topical right now with COVID. Because with COVID-19, the principal comorbidity is obesity and type 2 diabetes. And that's what we address, although we were addressing it prior to this pandemic. The fat that's deep inside your abdomen, the visceral fat, that you can't pinch, it acts like a gland, and it secretes evil cytokines or cellular hormones that hijack the liver's metabolism. So the net effect is it secretes resistin, which antagonizes insulin, and it means the sugar can't go into your brain, can't go to your muscle, so you're always hungry and you have no energy, and it winds up just going in the urine. And that's, of course, where you get the name sweet urine or diabetes mellitus. And it secretes angiotensin, which gives you high blood pressure, and a whole bunch of other cytokines, interleukins, which are inflammatory and cause autoimmune diseases and cancers. And that's why the incidence of cancer, as well as everything else, is up in people who are obese. And in the old days, we used to think that somebody who was just obese was basically a pig. They couldn't control their appetite. Mm-hmm. What we now understand is they're chemically challenged, because the bottom line is if sugar doesn't reach your brain, you're going to be hungry. And if the fat inside your stomach is secreting a hunger hormone, most potent hunger hormone known, neuropeptide Y, and ghrelin, you're really going to be hungry, because those chemicals work directly on the brain. So the net effect of it is once you get too much visceral fat, you've got type 2 diabetes, and you are not going to lose that weight no matter what you do. So what we can do, which couldn't really be safely done before, is to reduce the volume of that intra-abdominal fat. And wonderful things happen when you do that. When it's done in lower animals, diabetic strains of dogs are no longer diabetic. Hypertensive strains of rats are no longer hypertensive, and animals lose a huge amount of body fat for the small amount of visceral fat that's removed, that intra-abdominal fat. You remove a small amount of that in comparison to the total amount of fat in the body, and then basically those animals wind up skinny. And the only thing we've done that's even remotely close to this in humans to this point, in patients, is when we do a lap band, people have also taken out the omentum. Now, the omentum is the apron of yellow fat that hangs down from the stomach. It's not quite as metabolically active as some of the other fat inside the abdomen, such as the mesenteric fat that we're talking about removing. But nevertheless, if you remove it and you do that in conjunction with a lap band, the patient loses more weight than if they just had a lap band alone. And what a lot of the listeners probably know is that the problem with the lap band is people wind up putting the weight back on. Mm-hmm. And that's because when you do a lap band, all you're doing is starving the fat. And the patient really adapts to this because they're still hungry. The visceral fat is still putting out those chemical, those bad chemicals. So they're hungry, and they just find another way. Well, if you can't have the Big Mac, you're just going to have the pint of Haagen-Dazs. So they find another way to basically take in the same calories. So that's why, you go down to a plateau and then you regain it. The other bypass procedures, if you do omentectomy together with a bypass, and it's not a particularly aggressive bypass, again, you get an additive effect. If you bypass so much bowel that everything you eat is winding up in the toilet, obviously you can't really improve on that result. So if you do omentectomy in conjunction with a really aggressive bypass, you're not going to get any additional improvement. But what we plan to do is to take out the fat that's in the mesentery, and that's the fat that's most metabolically active, as the endocrinologists know that from treating regional ileitis, Crohn's disease, and ulcerative colitis. And we can use the same tube within a tube technology, or TCAP, that we use to allow the surgeon not to have to move a rod back and forth thousands of times. Most people have seen, liposuction carried out on TV at some point. Right. It was barbaric. Somebody taking a rigid rod with a hole in it, putting it through a vacuum, and basically moving it back and forth and literally hoovering out underneath the skin. And it's a rough procedure. It's rough, not just on the patient. It's also rough on the doctor. Doctors get tennis elbows and carpal tunnel from having basically a pretty strenuous workout if you're taking out a lot of fat on the patient. Mm-hmm. Well, our tube within a tube allows it not to be that rough, because what we've done is we've taken that tube that aspirates the fat and we put it inside a sheath. And then you can move it back and forth as fast as you want it, and every time it moves forward, it doesn't impact the tissue because it's inside the sheath. And yet the hole that's aspirating the tissue, sucking the tissue, still has enough contact with the body through a slot that it's aligned with, that it can basically do the job but not do the bruising. Mm-hmm. And the nice thing is the tube doesn't even have to be straight. It can be curved. And you can make the inner tube, plastic or a memory metal, such as nitinol. And the net effect is you've got a curved body, and you actually can use a curved instrument to remove fat from it. And it's very natural, and it takes all of the strenuous work away from the doctor. So if he's using a tube within a tube, or Airbrush 3, or Airbrush 2E, to remove fat on a patient subcutaneously, there's faster healing, less bruising, a shorter convalescence, and a lot more precision. Now, if you design this specifically to work inside the abdomen with a thinner cannula and a shorter stroke and a pistol rather than a wand, so it can be used inside a trocar, then the doctor just has to really put this little tube where he wants the fat, or she wants the fat removed. And there's no roughness. There's no shoving it back and forth. There's just basically a position properly and remove the fat. Then reposition, remove the fat. Reposition, then remove the fat till you've taken all the fat out that you want to. And we envision removing about 3 or 4 liters, so between 8 to 10 pounds of belly fat, visceral fat, deep within the abdomen. And the patient will get off the table with a lower blood pressure, a lower blood sugar, a more healthy lipid profile, more energy. And then the patient will lose some amount of weight after the surgery. If we get the kind of results that we expect from the animal work, the multiple will be literally 7 to 10 times. So if the patient's not very obese, one operation should suffice to basically cure the patient of type 2 diabetes. Now, if the multiple is lower than that, I may not get my Nobel Prize, but the bottom line is the investors in the company will still will only wind up making more money, because the bottom effect is it'll be a much safer procedure than the current procedure. There's no cutting into the bowel. There's no leaving behind a foreign body. There's no rearranging the body's alimentary plumbing. There's no chance of creating a digestive cripple. So the bottom line is, last year they did 258,000 bariatric surgeries bypasses or restrictive procedures. And out of those, 15% of those were revisional. Now, that's pretty amazing, because guess what? In 2008, they only did 220,000. Now, and meanwhile, there's a 10% growth rate on obesity. Where, that just speaks to me in kind of loud and capital letters that the doctors and the patients do not like these current procedures. Because obesity is more of a problem and we're not doing any more procedures. Something's wrong there. It means the solution is no good. I mean, it's the best we have right now, but it's obviously not adequate. So that's why I started with this, to come up with something that really could do for obesity management what LASIK did for vision correction. You want something that's fairly simple, fairly quick, predictable, and and it's something that you can get out there and get to the public, without breaking the bank. And so this should be, very cost effective for insurance, for insurance companies. It should be very cost effective for patients. And the major difference, which has me so excited about this, is when you take out the visceral fat, it doesn't grow back. By the second year of life, you've got every fat cell on your body that you've got by the second year of life is what you get. Now, when you take those out of the abdomen, were somebody to eat again because of psychological reasons, because bearing in mind that they will have less incentive to eat because the sugar will actually be going to their brain. They won't be secreting as much ghrelin or as much neuropeptide Y, so they would have less chemical reason to eat. But let's say they're eating only for a psychological reason. The fat cells inside the abdomen might swell up with some more fat, but the bottom line of it is there's not another set of mitochondria in that cell, so there's still not going to be any more chemicals. So the bottom line is the fat will wind up deposited subcutaneously, and they'll basically stay healthy. So unlike you hit a plateau and then you just rebound, you basically hit a plateau, and you've got a permanent improvement. So that's the good thing about this, that it should be a permanent result, that the procedure can repeat it until you finally get the patient down to an ideal weight. And why that's so relevant today is because diabetes is the leading cause of kidney failure requiring dialysis, the leading cause of non-traumatic amputations, and, one of the leading causes of blindness. I mean, obesity doesn't just kill you. I mean, it makes your life kind of unpleasant, if you're walking around blind without feet. And aside from the fact that about $10,000 a year for every obese patient, it's expensive. And once people go on, once somebody goes on dialysis, it's $100,000 a year. These are the comorbidities that will hit just breathing, but certainly any time you get a stressor like a pandemic, any bad infection, those are the people that are going to drop like flies.
So, Robert,
and that's what yes, sir.
So, Robert, that being said, where is this technology at right now? So, meaning in the process, is it available? What stage is it in? I mean, give us a little bit more of a feel on like the go-to-market on the technology.
Great answer. Now, so far as the tube within a tube technology for liposuction first, basically that's already out there. We've got a pneumatic device that's selling right now, and we're going to convert to an electrical one. I have a device a single cannula device which vibrated, which makes it move through the tissue with less resistance, which I licensed out to Ethicon. That was out and basically created the power-assisted liposuction market. We have an electrical version of that one that we will be bringing in. But as to the third device, which is the one that we were really addressing with the visceral lipectomy, the pistol device with the skinnier cannulas, that device, we're approximately 40 weeks from our 510K and being able to use that on the first patients. When we do it on the first patient, so figure it about a year, When we do it on the first patients, we'll be treating beer bellies and muffin tops without making any claims for additional weight loss. Then we'll just follow those patients for 2 years and see how much weight they lose. Mm-hmm. And based on that, then you get to make your claims, and then you get to go to Medicare and Medicaid and talk to them and say, listen, these are the numbers. We've improved the health of these people. We want a CPT code that this gets to be a reimbursed procedure. And at that point, you're basically off to the races. And
man, that's
exciting.
Kind of the it's so exciting right now. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. And I mean, a year to basically get that out there is pretty fantastic. I don't have the slightest, as I said, quite honestly, I don't have the slightest doubt that this is going to work. I just don't know how effective it's going to be. I don't know, if it's going to take, I don't know what the multiple is going to be. I know the patient will get off the table and be happy because, basically when the guys come into my office and they don't like their beer bellies, they're always upset to find out that most of the fat is really deep inside. And you really can't get at it doing liposuction. So right off the bat, they're going to be happy that you basically flattened their abdomen a little bit. And then kind of like the extra reward is when you lose a fairly significant multiple beyond that. That's what really gets exciting, because what do we really want? We want to have more energy. We want to feel better. And that's what taking out that bad fat is. It's really just a horrible problem. And it's proven so correct, because you notice the minorities are the ones, the blacks and the minorities are the exact ones, the Hispanics, are the exact people who are mainly impacted by COVID-19. Why? Well, 55% of them are obese. So it explains, it's a stressor to the body. And, you kind of start with some genetics that you start with that we don't really have any handle on how to address. But what we can do is we can address the fact that if a teen is an obese girl, if she's a chubby teen and she winds up being an obese mother, that obese mother is going to have a child that's got a lot more visceral fat than the child of a mother who's, normal weight. And that's really, if we want to change the obesity spiral, that's where we have to go. And to be able to go there, you have to have a procedure that's safe enough to be able to use on the. Now, I believe and I hope that this will be a procedure that will allow us to intervene at that point in time and actually change the course of the disease.
Man, that's exciting. That is exciting, Robert. So, Robert, if somebody's listening to, and I can talk to you about this all day long, but we're about out of time. If somebody's listening to this and they want more information on BioSculpture technology, what's the best way for them to reach out and to learn more? Sure.
They can go to the company's website. It's biosculpturetech.com, BioSculpture, TECH.com. And if they want to learn more about EVL in particular, they can go to www.evl.technology, one of the newer domains, technology. And those are two sites where they can kind of, get started on it.
Fantastic. Well, Robert, it's been great having you on the show today. I'm really excited about what you're working on and what that can mean going forward. I'm going to have to bring you back on the show in a year or so after we get these first group of people treated and done, and just kind of keep up with this progress, because I know I agree with you. I mean, just based off of what you're saying, it makes a lot of sense, and I think it's going to be really disruptive and help a lot of people. More importantly, it's going to help a lot of people. So investors are going to be happy. Patients are going to be really happy with this. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, leave me a review on the Apple iTunes Store, and if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, Mission Matters Startup Garage, definitely give that a subscribe, but also leave us some comments on the video. Love to know what you thought and what kind of projects and startups you got going on. And Robert, thanks again for coming on the show.